And here now to talk about pandemic measures put in place at the Rockefeller Tree, as well as the surge in citywide crime stats, is NYPD Chief of Detectives, Chief Rodney Harrison. Chief, good morning to you. Thanks for being here this morning.
Hey, Dan, good morning. Thank you for having me.
So, Chief, let's begin with the Christmas tree lighting happening in Rockefeller Center tonight. Big night for the city, big night really for the holidays. Mayor de Blasio, like you heard, discouraging crowds tonight for the remainder of the month. How will that be enforced, and what will the police presence really look like tonight at the tree?
So, NYPD, our most priority is public safety. So we're going to have to practice social distancing and make sure that everybody's wearing their facial masks. But this is something that we've taken pride in. Unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit different this year in contrast to years in the past. But we want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to enjoy the holiday festivities. And we're going to do the best we can to make sure we protect all New Yorkers.
And the key there, like you said, is mask and keep it moving, right? Keep it moving. Don't stop and stay for too long of a time. I want to talk about safety and security overall in this city, because when we look at some of the stats, right, murder up 37.2% for the first 10 months of 2020 compared to the first 10 months of 2019. Courts closed because of COVID. What does that do for justice on the streets?
You know, Dan, it's made it somewhat difficult for us. This pandemic has had a toll on New York and the nation as a whole. But the NYPD, we're resilient. We're continuing to come up with innovative ways to combat some of the violence that we're seeing throughout the city. One of the struggles that we're seeing, especially in Brooklyn, was with the gang violence. You can contribute out of the 1,400 shootings that we've had for the year to date, 50% of it can be contributed to gang violence. It's something that we've put in precision policing, try to identify the worst of the worst to see if we can get these individuals off the streets.
Yeah, citywide shootings seeing a spike of 93.9% spikes year to date. Does coronavirus have anything to do with that? You're mentioning gang violence, but with the courts being closed, trials can't happen as quickly as you would like to see. The commissioner has highlighted that a number of times here. But what does coronavirus, how does it play a factor here?
Well, it's made it difficult. There's a backlog regarding how we prosecute a lot of our cases. It's made it difficult regarding some of our long-term cases that we've investigated towards some of our problematic crews. So the courts shutting down has made it extremely difficult for us to get these individuals that we've done a lot of good work identifying some of the violence that they've done and how we get them off the streets and bring them through the judicial system.
And Chief, some things that made headlines recently were some subway shovings. Last month we reported 3 in just 1 week. Is there enough police presence in the subways?
Yeah, so Kathleen O'Reilly, she was the former chief of Manhattan North, now took over the job of being the chief of transit. She's absolutely innovative executive, and she's going to come up with different strategies regarding to keep anybody that uses the transit system, keeping them safe. So I know she's looking to deploy more personnel into our transit system. I also want to acknowledge some of the great work that's being done by our transit detectives. They were able to identify a lot of our perpetrators through very difficult investigations and identify our perpetrators and bring them to jail.
And thank you for that, and I would look forward to chatting with her when she comes on one day soon in the future. I want to talk about 2 specific cases that really grabbed headlines, and I want to begin with this one. 7 people shot at a Sweet 16 party in Brooklyn. What is the latest on this case? And you're seeking the public's assistance really in this one.
Yeah, so that happened on November 22nd, a little bit after 11 o'clock. If I could just real quickly walk you through what happened here. Several individuals walked into that location during the Sweet 16. A couple individuals pulled out some firearms, started shooting people within the lobbyway, and then they worked their way up to the 3rd floor and shot at several other individuals. It's unfortunate that one of our victims was a 20-year-old female that was visiting from Virginia. My prayers, the NYPD prayers, go out to her and her family. Yeah. I just can't imagine what they must be going through, but I'm extremely optimistic that the investigators from the 7-9 Detective Squad, as well as Brooklyn North Homicide, will identify our perpetrators.
Dozens of people there, dozens of people witnessed this unfold. Any calls into Crime Stoppers?
So we don't have any calls at this time, but once again, there's a lot of investigation that is being done by the investigators are going in the right direction. We do have a couple people that we're looking at, and like I was stating before, I'm extremely optimistic that we'll identify our individuals and bring them into custody.
Understood. And Chief, this one was just so hard and so difficult to still talk about, especially around the holidays. 2 newborn babies found dead in the Bronx here. There were not a lot of leads on this. Any information on who those 2 babies were or who their mother is?
Yeah, Dan, it's a unfortunate situation. On November 9th, a little bit about after 2 o'clock p.m., Good Samaritan called 911 about 2 infants that were discovered behind 1460 College Avenue. One of the infants was wrapped in what looks like a blue tarp. The other one was in the rear of that location in a black plastic bag. EMS came in and they did a phenomenal job trying to resuscitate the infants. Unfortunately, they died at the hospital. But we're going to need the community's help. We're going to need someone to come forward, and if anybody has any information, call our Crime Stoppers hotline at 1-800-577-TIPS.
And is it odd that we don't know who the mother is, or that nobody in that neighborhood has come forward yet? That this is, I mean, radio silence?
Yeah, at this time, the investigators from the 404 Detective Squad, as well as the Bronx Homicide, they're working tirelessly to identify who our person is, who the mother is, or who was involved with this with this heinous incident. So,
and I've been there at the Crime Stoppers unit. I've covered them and did a story on them. All calls completely anonymous. Chief Rodney Harrison, appreciate your time and your voice this morning, and stay safe during the holiday season to you and the NYPD. Okay.
Hey Dan, thank you very much for having me.